You're listening to Beyond Technique, the podcast that empowers photographers to bring their businesses to the next level. Hello and welcome to Beyond Technique, brought to you by Platypod, Photofocus, and Cohen University. This is Shamira Young, and I'm joined by my co-host and friend, Skip Cohen.
Hey.
How are you, Skip?
Wow, sometimes I'm awesome, sometimes I'm knowledgeable, sometimes I'm the best or something. I like friend just works.
It does, yes.
Because we all, these days and coming out of the pandemic, what a kick it is to get back to friends.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. Hey, Shamira.
Hey, Skip.
It just cracks me up because we do these Hey, Shamira minutes, everybody. Before each of these podcasts, we're always talking about Platypod and the diversity, and we've shared ideas on things that have come out of the blog from photographers from all over the world. We've talked about the newsletter, but right now the accessory kit is just phenomenal, and it's on sale at just under $15. But here's what I love about it: we're always talking about how diversified Platypod is and how it gives you a new perspective. And I'm having a blast with the accessory kit, using the strap and tying a camera on an Ultra to the tree. And I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm right in the right position to start to capture some of the butterflies that come in. And if I was right where they come in, I would scare them away. And it's just so cool how diverse that little kit is. I don't know if you've had a chance to use it or not.
It's cool how it really, the Platypod is already diverse, and then you factor in the multi-kit, and you can really take your creativity to the next level. I really like the silicone pad as far as keeping it from slipping or sliding on flat surfaces. If I'm outdoors walking, and helping when I set it down on an area that I like to walk near a river, for example, and there are some nice big rocks there, but sometimes they can be a little slippery or a little wet from the river and the stream, and it's just helpful. That's the thing I like. So, it's very cool.
It's kind of fun, that little silicone pad. I remember watching a video a short time ago, and Charles and Jennifer Maring use it on the dashboard of their car when they're recording a vlog. Mm-hmm. And the camera doesn't move. Now, obviously, you slam on the brakes at 80 miles an hour, it's going to move. But it adds so much stability. And I'm always surprised when somebody that has a Max says, well, aren't you going to make a pad the right size to fit the Max? This is the right size. It fits both Platypods. You don't have to have 100% coverage on the bottom of the Platypod.
Right.
When you've got the camera on top and a little bit of weight, it keeps everything in place.
Mm-hmm.
So
love it.
It's a very cool accessory, and I know that once inventory is back down, Platypod had a little excess of inventory, and once it's back down, it's no longer going to be on special at 50% off. So It's a great opportunity for people to get even more use out of their Platypod.
For sure.
Hey, let's get right into this, because this is a kick for me today. With our guests, they are two of my most favorite people in the industry. We've got Beverly and Tim Walden with us, and they are portrait artists based out of Lexington, Kentucky, and photography is simply in their blood. From high school to college to getting married, they have been together as a couple and business partners virtually all of their adult life. The foundation in imaging, which is kind of cool, started with Tim's father, who never let anything slow him down, including giving Bev and Tim a real foundation to build on. They are perfectionists, and it's obvious when you look at their galleries, or even better when you hear them teach. As I heard Tim, or maybe it was Beverly, say once, and I'm going to do this as a quote, "We're not selling a sitting, but an experience, and it's not a portrait, but a priceless family heirloom to be handed down to future generations," close quote. That really puts it in perspective about when you're talking about selling portraits. They're not prints. It's not a wedding album. It's a new collection of family heirloom images. And on their bio page, there's a quote that so captures who they are. "Life takes you to unexpected places. Love brings you home." So, Bev and Tim, Welcome to Beyond Technique, and this is definitely the cue for your lips to move.
Well, they've been moving. Nothing's coming out. Yeah, so you're practicing over here. Thank you, guys. We're honored.
Thank you.
We're honored to be here with you, Skip. We go way back, and Shamir, I'm so honored to get to know you, and honored to be here and to share with photographers, to talk about where we come from, where we're going, maybe instill some of our passion.
We are excited to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
I've been fans of your work for a long time now, and so it's just such a kick to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. We're honored to be here. It means a lot. You ask, and yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Awesome. Well, we're going to kick it off with our favorite first question. Can you tell us how you both, tell us your background, how you both got started? It sounds like you have quite a story. How did you get started, and how did you end up doing what you're doing today?
Well, my father was a photographer, as Skip mentioned, and when I was 5 years old, he and I were throwing darts, and he slipped a disc. It slipped inward instead of outward, and he ended up paralyzed for the last 40 plus years of his life. And he was a commercial photographer, and then he turned portrait photographer because of the wheelchair. And I remember at 12 years old sitting in the dark room with him and watching him just kind of instill his values and his excellence in art and his love for photography. And for me, it wasn't actually, this is a strange thing to say, but it wasn't photography that attracted me. It was his passion, because I thought, how in the world can you be so taken with something? How can you love it so much? How can you be so driven with so many challenges that he'd had physically? And that passion I'm like, well, I'm going to look into this, because when your father tells you to do something, the first thing you do is run the other way. But he never did that. He never twisted my arm. And so, yeah, from a wheelchair, he did over 1,000 weddings in 40 years, earned his master's in photography, and traveled the world and spoke. And just that passion, it has driven me all along, and still fuels my love for photography.
And then we met.
That's right.
We met as juniors in high school.
Yeah.
And all Tim ever wanted to take me to were print exhibits and conventions of photography. And I sat through so many classes, I had no idea what they were talking about. And then one year, I would look at the exhibits and go, I could do that. That sounds kind of like, not a very nice thing to think, but I was like, I would like to try. And so I hired Tim to be my teacher.
Yeah.
And he put me through
I gave her a discount.
Yeah, thanks. He put me through the Walden School of Lighting, and I remember thinking, there's too many numbers. I don't like the technical part. I had the visions in my head of what I wanted, but I didn't want to learn how to load film into a camera and all that stuff and read a light meter. And he told me one day, he said, if we ever speak together, somebody asks you a question that's a technical question, do you want to have to turn to me and say, will you answer that? Or do you want to be able to answer that yourself? And I said, well, I'd rather answer it myself. I want to be able to do that. And so between him and his dad, who was a mentor, he was a tough mentor. Every year I'd bring him my competition prints and he would look at them, and then he would be kind of quiet, and then he would look at me and say, you could do better. And I'm like, no, I really can't. This is it. And the one that won, interestingly enough, the one that won the Kodak Gallery Elite Award that Skip was talking about earlier, he put a homemade rosette on it and wrote, that this was the award winner. And then he said, you can thank me later because I saved you in the printing. And so that was the one that won that award. So in from high school, we'd go to conventions and go to print exhibits. And I just absorbed, I guess, all that stuff. And then when Tim taught me the back end of it, all the light bulbs went off kind of all at once.
Yeah, the problem was I went from being Bob Walden's son to Beverly Walden's husband. Yeah, that part.
I kind of like that.
Didn't like that a bit, but that's okay. It's okay.
You lost your identity.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So,
So,
anyway, yeah.
You know, for our listeners, one of the things that so many new photographers don't realize is how close-knit and how small this industry is. And the award that Beverly's talking about was roughly, give or take, roughly 20 years ago. And Beverly won the Kodak Gallery Elite Award at what was then the PPA National Convention, which is now IUSA. It was presented to her by Terry Dayglow from Kodak.
That's right.
And at the time, I was with Hasselblad, and Kodak bought a 500 CM, I think it was a 500 Classic. I think it was the whole kit.
Yeah, it was.
From us, and asked me to be there to help present it. And I was green as president of Hasselblad, and Terry was anything but green. One of the most respected photographers to ever come through Kodak's team. And sadly, we lost him a year or two ago, but that's where the friendship started. And so many new photographers don't realize that all of us, I laugh about it sometimes, and I'll say, well, we've all been to the same rubber chicken dinners together, and we've all cried together and laughed together and been stuck in airports together. But it really is very true. This is a very close industry, and you can always do the 3 degrees, 4 degrees of separation Kevin Bacon game with just about anybody there and connect them. I like to use Tony Corbell all the time because you can always do it in usually 1 to 2, maybe 3 steps, 3 degrees of separation to find somebody that connects to Tony. Anyway, so that's the background on that. But I really want to get into things that you feel photographers need to be doing the most of right now. I mean, we're coming out of a pandemic. In fact, let's go the other way. What kept you guys going through the pandemic? And then let's go into what people need to do to get out of it.
Well, for us, our business is, and I know other people say this, but do we always practice it? Our business is about relationships. And it's about building strong relationships. Right before I jumped on here, we got a comment on one of our platforms that said it's a place where I'm always treated like I'm not only a family member, I'm their favorite family member. And I think when you really care about people, you have a lot of respect for them, you appreciate the fact that they choose you, then you're able to communicate with them in those harder times, like a pandemic, although which of us saw that coming, but still, you can say, hey, I'm checking on you. How are you? These are people who send me little videos of their kids singing on a stage or doing something that we photographed, 6 months, a year, 2 years ago. And so we nurture this community and culture at Walden's of making you family. And one of the things I love to tell a customer is what my goal here is that if you ever choose to go anywhere else, you're going to feel really guilty doing it. And so and I'll tell them that, and I'll say, if I don't live up to that expectation, please tell me, because that is my goal. And every time I communicate with them, it's not about spending money, or maybe we've got an opening here or there. It's about how are you? So there's love, there's respect. And the other thing I think too, is that our portraiture is built on storytelling. We learn people's stories, and then we translate that through the body language or the subtleties that go into that work. So I think what's happened in hindsight is that we've connected with people at a level most photographers don't connect with them at. We've connected with them on a personal level. Not personal like, an immediate family person, but I tell everybody we're like everybody's cousin, right? We're that kind of personal. So we're like family, not immediate family, but family. And so they've told us their stories. They've shared with us the things that we've tried to incorporate into being the purpose of the art that we create. And so it's allowed us through those times to communicate with them. And in communicating with them, they continue to say, hey, this is what happened for us. Our family we're realizing how important they are. We do want to do a portrait. So, I mean, I can't say we didn't miss a beat. We had the first 2 months were just dry as a bone, nothing. But after that, we kind of got a rhythm of how to accommodate their safety and still build a relationship, create a portrait, and keep those wheels turning. But it wasn't because of our photography. It wasn't a great marketing campaign. It was respect, connection. Everyone is families.
Well, I want to say a couple things during the pandemic when we were literally locked up and closed. We are so thankful that the two of us just went from our house to the two of us at the office because, we could legally do that and nobody, we could lock the doors and we still worked, but we changed our work to educating ourselves, to sitting and learning from others, because a lot of times when we teach so much, we never have the time to just sit and absorb what other people are doing, are teaching, are learning. So we set ourselves down and we said, this is a time, it's quiet. We can focus. Let's learn some new things. Let's learn more about social marketing. Let's learn more about digital marketing. Let's see what others are doing and how creative. We saw several photographers so creative during this time. The second thing is, I think what at least helped me personally, is that I stayed in a routine. I didn't just get up and work in my pajamas and never get dressed. I got up as if I was going to work, got up, got ready, went to work. So that helped me mentally to stay stable and feel like that routine just kept me in a better state of mind than just, padding around the house with no goal. And I got so excited. And then our marketing, we're like, well, we can't really send emails like we were sending, about marketing per se. So we just entered into this phase of, hey, how's everybody doing? We love you. We care about you. What can we do? Can we do anything to help? Just checking on people, just making sure we kept in touch, but with a very sensitive, softer approach, not asking for anything, but just asking if we could help people.
Being a friend.
And being a friend.
Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, in terms of you maintaining your routine, and I don't know if you really understand or realize it, but your, what's it called? Tuesday Tidbits?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your Tuesday Tidbits email blast. I can't tell you how many times it helped me snap out of it. I mean, and my business was not affected that much. Most of you that listen know I am not a professional photographer. My passion is marketing and business and helping photographers. Now, hanging out with so many photographers over the years, I know more than I let on, but the difference is that I could do a stunning portrait lit exactly right, but it would take me 12 hours and it would take Beverly and Tim 10 minutes or Shamira 10 minutes. I mean, that's the difference. But those Tuesday tidbits that you wrote just helped so many times. And I mean, I picked them up and with your permission, I've continued to share them over on Marathon's blog as well and link back to your website.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Well, I know the thank you comes from all of us out here back to you. I know I found that sometimes just writing a blog post for my own blog just becomes therapeutic.
Yeah.
And every time you shared one of those, it just got me thinking. It hit home on what I was feeling, what everybody was feeling. You're down in the dumps. You can't think you can get out of it. You don't know what's going to come next. You're caught in the middle of what I call an analysis paralysis. And along comes Beverly with a Tuesday tidbit to say, hey, guys, did you ever think about? And it just helped people refocus. Yeah. And I guess I kind of want to know, where do those come from? Where do you get that energy from?
Where do they come? When I started it, I just depended on people to subscribe, and then I was like, the heck with this, because I wasn't getting anywhere. And we had an email list, where we've taught of photographers, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to send them every week to their email box, and they can just say go away and opt out, or they can get them. And that kind of started the train rolling, and they've they've gotten a life of their own at this point. And, I never write anything that I'm not a negative person just by nature. I'm positive. I'm upbeat. I'm kind of a level emotionally. I don't go up and down all the time. So I wanted to make sure on the tidbits that I was, just as we were reaching our clients, like, hey, how are you? Are you doing okay? I wanted to reach our photographer. Like you say, we're a family, really. This industry, we're family. We're not really business people per se. I wanted to make sure everybody was okay. And so that's why if they just reply to it, it goes right to my personal inbox, email inbox. And I encourage people to write me, tell me, comment, can I help you? And so I knew I had to be consistent because I'd read enough about things like that. I knew I couldn't do it more than once a week, but I figured if I could do it once a week and be consistent, then that was good. And it was funny, the one time I completely forgot to publish it, like completely. Then on Wednesday, I wrote, sorry you didn't get your tidbit. I just forgot. I forgot. And I had more comments on that, like, hey, you really are human, or, gee, you're not perfect like we thought you were, or something, And I think people got more of a kick because I just wrote one sentence, hey, sorry, I forgot to send the tidbit out, But I read a lot and just life experience and, that type of thing. So it just comes to me. There's no rhyme or reason to it, just whatever.
It's all embedded in there. So,
it's embedded somewhere in this brain.
That's right.
Well, it works.
Yeah.
It does, and it's so cool how you have you really have your finger on the pulse of your clients, of other photographers, and I love how plugged into the community you are. And I'm curious. I would love to hear more about your mentoring programs that you have going, and kind of specifically. What are you telling advice, or what advice are you giving photographers as far as what they should be doing right now, coming out of the pandemic?
Yeah, well, the mentoring is something that if God forbid I ever didn't do photography, a really close second for Bev and I would be to help others, to work with them, and to instill the passion and whatever knowledge and wisdom that we've come by over the years to help them grow. And because, there's no barrier to entry into photography, which is fine. If I look at some of the stuff when I came in, you'd never see it. You're all never going to see it. It's like, we start somewhere, but I think when we stay there, or when we're satisfied with that, is when bad things begin to happen. And one of the advice that I love to give for success is in photography is simply this: if you want to be successful, I can tell you how in 2 words, and that's create gaps, wide gaps, gaps between you and the masses. Where can you run the masses can't run? What is it about your photography that others can't do? And even if a client doesn't understand those subtleties, they do understand there is a major difference here. Things like lighting, like creating emotion, like being a print artist, creating legacy pieces that can be passed down from generation to generation. I would like to play some small role, Bev and I both, in helping photographers not only be successful, but to elevate this industry to where I think it has been and can be and should be all across the board. So this is why we do the mentoring. We do year-longs that start in September, and we're gonna start a new one in September called Immersion, and it's really going to be all things Waldens. It's not just the black and white, which is what we've kind of always taught. We're going to delve into more things, but we're also going to delve into the marketing side of things, building relationships, the selection appointments in the sales process, product development, all of those type of things. So it's going to be a mixture of classroom, and then there's going to be personal coaching, an hour a month for each of the students, because this is some place I want to go in the future. It's so rewarding to be able to do this. And so I believe that's important. And I think the other thing too is I want photographers to quit thinking about some of the things they think about and start thinking about, what is the purpose of your art? How does your art serve someone else? How does your art make someone's life better? What does your art mean? Because if today, but what does it mean in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years? And what are you doing to message that? And what are you doing to solidify that? And so we have a lot of ways that we solidify that with our customers. We learn their stories. That's the first start. They don't come in and say, okay, what background do you like? And I don't want that to sound insulting. I want it to sound challenging. Because I want us to say, okay, let's not let customers be an expert at something we're an expert at. Let's let them choose us because we're distinguished in our work. We're distinctive. They know what we do. Because ultimately, I think a successful brand does this. A successful brand forms your expectation and then fulfills it. Everybody comes to you with an expectation, period. It doesn't matter whether you want them to or not. The question becomes, who formed that expectation? If you didn't form it, there's a good chance that you can do a wonderful job and still not fulfill their expectation. Great businesses and great brands understand this, and they begin to distinguish themselves, to hone in on what they do best, add purpose. And then when the customers come, they're coming for the right reasons. They want that work. They know what it is. Now you just do what you do, and life gets so much easier and better, and you start experiencing things that you just only dreamed of. I'm not even sure when to stop. I just get off on my tangent here, so I'll stop there. But yeah, it's those things are important.
That was so great. Oh my goodness, yes.
You covered it all there,
man.
See you later.
This is like jokingly. I once said to Sheila after an incredible Thanksgiving dinner, and we finished. I said, "So, what do you want to do for dinner tonight?" Yeah. Let's switch gears for a second, because your response on the mentoring question is left both of us speechless and is overwhelming, because it really does explain what's behind it. It's not just about, you guys enjoy teaching, and it's not what it's all about, because what you're really mentoring people on isn't just their business, but it's their outlook, it's their life, it's the value they put into this whole journey that they're on, which leads me to ask the question of what's been the secret ingredients that the two of you have found you guys have been together a long time. And yet I've been with both of you. There's so much respect for each other's skill set, and it is slightly different, and then it blends together into Walden's photography. But what are some of the secrets to working with your spouse day in, day out? Wow. And smiling at the end of every day.
Well, I think one of the things you just said is part of it, is that we each have different skill sets. I can't do what he does. He can't do what I do. And so we depend on each other to be one. What do we always say? Takes both of us to make one good photographer,
or to make one brain. I'm not sure which.
I'm not currently actively, in the camera room doing sessions, but I'm doing the paintings. I'm doing the social media, the design, the graphic design, creating all the back marketing, design of materials, and we do sales together. I do help with the sessions, with styling or with the kids or whatever it needs to be. But we don't step on each other's toes that way, because he does and I'm thankful he does what he does, because I don't want to do it. And he's probably thankful that I do what I do, because she doesn't want to do it.
Absolutely.
So that kind of helps, because we each run in our own little skill circle, and we don't cross over and that kind of thing. But I think one of the main things is we watch our attitudes. When we used to have more employees, and Christmas was really just insane, like 8 sessions a day and that kind of thing. And I would get all like, and, and he would just look at me and say, your attitude affects the atmosphere in the entire room. So, we need to not be doing that. And, and that's good. That's good to be able to be, reminded that we both need to have the attitude that's the right attitude all the time. in order to run this business. And I don't think either of us really get offended.
For me,
much.
I think it starts with a decision. We make a decision because you can take any circumstance and you can find the bad in it, or you can find the good in it, and you can forget the good in the bad circumstances. And I think you have to remind yourself, listen, I married a wonderful lady. She's amazingly calm, puts up with me. And so, okay, a bad day, let's blow it off and move on. And I'm having a bad day, or she is. And it really comes down to, respect and love. And then you don't go to bed angry. If there's something that bothers you, you're like, okay, this bothered me, or I'm sorry, it shouldn't have bothered me. So whatever it is, but it's kind of based in that love and respect and looking at things as they are, and not as you hyper focus on in your mind towards something negative.
And we've grown together.
Yeah.
I mean, we got married at 20. Well, shut up. You're going to say, I got married at 19. I was married an older woman. I'm 6 months older than
She's
him.
a cougar.
So whatever.
Oh, cougar.
Hey, join the club. Love it.
Wow.
Love it.
But
Sheila's 3 months older than I am, and I kid her about being a cougar.
The same thing.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm older than my hubby, too, so part of the club.
There you go. See?
I just had a sappy comment. I mean, just the love and the dedication that you both have for each other and for your business. I mean, it's just a true testament to dedication, to true love. I mean, a lifetime of marriage. What are the stats with just, the rates of couples breaking up under normal circumstances? But you two have been together for decades. You run a business together. You've gone through a pandemic together. I can't remember the percentages of people getting divorced through the pandemic. But I mean, you two are together and passionate as ever. I love it. Okay, there's the end of my sappy statement.
Well, it was good. It was a good sappy statement. But just before, because we're coming down to the wire, and we've always got our favorite last question that Shamara's going to hit you with.
Yes.
I want to hit one more because I've heard you guys talk about this. I mentioned just before we started at Marathon's MAP weekend a few years back. Talk for a second about how you sell the experience versus the print, because it's not a print. And I remember Tim talking about the whole issue of it's an heirloom and we're loaning it to you. If I think I got it right.
Mm-hmm.
Hit on that for a second, because I think you guys can help photographers so much understand the true value of that portrait you're doing. It's not just a print.
No, it's not. The print's the vehicle that carries the story, the message. When I teach, I tell people that being technically excellent in photography shouldn't be what we're bragging about. The only thing that technical excellence does is it makes the photography invisible. I mean, because I could explain it this way. If you go to see a movie, if it's amazingly well done, you don't. Well, maybe we do because we're in the photography business, but most people don't say, wow, that was great lighting or that was great camera work. What do? We cry or we laugh or we jump when we're afraid. It's because the message was carried through technical excellence. So the video became visible. Mm-hmm. This is what we have to do as artists. We have to make photography invisible and allow the purpose and the message to rise to the top. And I think the other thing, guys, that for me is we need to quit waiting for the customers to understand how good we are and how important what we do is. We need to figure out how to message that. It has to become part of our DNA. And so I think what we look to do, and one of my favorite things to say is, don't sell your art, sell the result of your art. Yeah. In other words, how does your art serve that family? How does it tell their story? And so one of the things that we do is we create images. Our fine art black and white relationship work is built on establishing portraits, which are family portraits, the best we can do, beautiful family portraits. And then we take those children or the individuals and we isolate them, and we begin through body language and composition and who serves as a secondary subject in that. We begin to tell their story, because in the design appointment, the visioning appointment, I'll say, Shamira or Skip, tell me, if this portrait were a chapter in your life, what would the bold print be? What would the headline be? I don't talk about photography, because we've branded ourselves so tight that if you don't know what we do, you probably would never end up here. So you might say, well, my son is like, he's like a miracle child. We weren't supposed to be able to have children. Or I look in his eyes and I get whatever he wants, I just do it. And whatever it is, subtle things. And I began then to look for those things to play out in that photograph. And then when we're in the selection appointment, I don't say, how do you like how you look? I think that's just a horrible thing to ask someone, because if you're like me, raised by a Southern mom, you got your butt kind of whacked if you said, hey, I look great. She'd say, son, that's arrogant. Shut up. But, you look at them and you say, how did I do telling your story? Do you remember the story you told me? I see that in this image. And then you sell that image and we put on the back, we teach them how to write letters to their children. We put paperwork on the back, and we give them papers of 7 things that, that you should, that help you write a letter to your children. I'll say, now what I want you to do is buy this portrait. This is why we don't sell something on a stick, or something that's going to change, or it's novel. We're selling them something that's a legacy piece. So I want you to write a letter to your son, or Shamir, I want you to write a letter to your daughter or your son, whatever it is. And let's decide when we're going to give that portrait to that person, to that child. You could give it to them when they graduate high school. That's really a bad idea. You could give it to them when they go off to college. Another really bad idea. But what about designating that portrait with that letter on it for their wedding day? And don't tell them it's back there. It'll be like your longest kept secret. And then you put that on the wedding table. And what I'd like you to do is tell me what gift you might purchase that would be as meaningful or powerful as that is. That's what we do. And photographers that are listening to this, I have a message for you. That's your responsibility, to think of that, to nurture the purpose of your art, not to get upset, well, people don't know how hard I work. You know what? Let's get to the result, and let's find ways to celebrate that. And then you'll see people kind of jumping on board just in warp speed.
Yeah. I don't remember the book it was from, and probably I will massacre the quote, but the thought is that people are leaving businesses that they're content with to go to other businesses where they have a greater experience.
Yeah. All right.
So that elevates in our minds the importance of providing an experience when people come. And that can be as simple as writing a note to the kids when they're coming in for the session, putting it in the dressing room with chilled water and little gift bags. It could be that simple. We got challenged by a little group that we're in, and that's really another reason for education. We are in a little group with people that are kind of like-minded, that challenge us all the time. And they're like, well, what do you put out for everybody? And we're like, no, nothing. I mean, we give them chilled water. They're like, come on now. I said, well, we have a Keurig. Well, come on now. I'm like, what do you guys do? Well, we set a whole tray out of chocolates and gluten-free things, and then like Skinny Pop popcorn and fresh flowers. And then we invite everybody it's like, a treat for everybody that they walk in. I'm like, really? Okay. So we bought a beverage refrigerator, and we filled it up with all kinds of fun stuff and local drinks, local soft drinks that are popular. And now we have our own little tray with little black organza bags filled with Hershey Kisses and the Skinny Pop and all the other stuff. And we have a little sign that says, we knew you were coming, so we wanted to give you so we baked a cake. That's a Three Stooges. So, we wanted to give you a little treat. We have a big jar full of chocolate candy and stuff. All of that combines together somehow to, besides just being welcoming and friendly as well, but to create an experience that's unlike.
Yeah, I want the experience to be ridiculous.
Yeah,
just ridiculous service, ridiculous kindness.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's what I can do, and that's what Bev and I do.
We handwrite a lot of cards.
Yeah, they have handwritten letters when they show up. Yeah, we could go on. Let's do a 4-hour podcast. Okay, wait, stop. Let's not do that. Okay.
This is
something. In all honesty,
stuff.
I would love to do that once and do it as a fundraiser, like Jerry's Kids. I mean, we all grew up watching Jerry Lewis's telethons.
Absolutely.
It would be fun to see if we could go 24 hours and just either do it with a couple of photographers, like you guys are nuts enough to say, yeah, we'll do it.
We'll do it.
Or you switched off and, every 2 hours you tagged somebody and another photographer came in. You might have just given me a fun idea.
Good.
Uh-oh.
Just to do once before I'm too old to take something on like that one.
Wow.
That's
well,
funny.
I mean, Bev, Tim, just in the 30, 40 minutes that we've been talking, I've got a page full of notes. I feel like I'm going through the most amazing workshop right now, listening to both of you speak. And even as you were going through certain things about creating gaps or managing client expectations and taking control of that, all these little things, actually, they're big things. It makes me look back at how I've done business as a photographer in a different light, in a new light. And it's just, this whole thing is so enlightening. And it's kind of funny that my last question, I'm going to ask you our favorite final question, advice for photographers. What advice would you give photographers just starting out? When I feel like this whole episode has been just that. But just in case there's anything that you feel you haven't mentioned, what advice do you have for photographers who are just starting out today with their businesses? What would you tell them to do first?
Well, I think there's a number of things, and we have talked about many of those in creating gaps and finding that special place that separates you. But, I would say a number of things. I would say define.
Yes.
If you don't define yourself, and here's the problem we have, guys, is that you know who you are. And your spouse knows who you are, and your friends know who you are. And so you have this terrible misunderstanding that so does everyone else, and they don't. And we become everything to everybody, and then people begin to shop on price and location, the two things you never want people to shop on.
Right.
I like to say that wisdom today, for the first time I've seen in this industry, wisdom today is in choosing what not to do. It's not in choosing what to do, because there's a million things we can do. And you know what? Here's the other thing. You need to not do some really good things. You need to lay down some really good things for the greater cause of doing the better things, the things that will help you rise to the top. Because ultimately, people that choose you, when they know who you are and they know what you do and you form that expectation, what's going to happen is you're going to get the right person through the door. And when you get the right person through the door, your sales, your experience, your art begins to improve. The other thing I would say is that the difference between good photographers and great photographers, in my mind, are little things. They're not big ones. There's an amazing number of people that learn what a 3-to-1 ratio is, and they learn a basic pose, and they know what 3/4 length crop is. They know what a raw file is. They know that. But great photographers, they begin to finesse. They begin to do little things, and those little things accumulate like the straw that breaks the camel's back. And they come together, and you always can't define those, but you look at their work and you go, oh my goodness, Shamira did that, or I love that. And they recognize it. You'll never get to that finessing stage unless you begin to do less and focus on things that distinguish you. And then I would go back and I would say, look where the masses run and run the opposite way. Yeah, like you see where the masses are going, turn around and run the other way. Now, you still have to have purpose and excellence, but it's hard to distinguish yourself in the public when your park photographs look like the next guy's park photographs. But my lighting's better, but I won this award or I did that. But you know what, folks? We're asking people to be an expert again at something they're not an expert at. What can you do they can't do? And, I think mastering lighting, studio work for us is one of those things. Working in a home, creating lifestyle work, finding a way to execute things at a level where the masses don't. And then you have to give it time. You have to give it time. You have to do less, do it better than everyone else, get in a stage of finessing, and then allow the time to work to your advantage, where all of a sudden, like they talk about overnight success, it's not that, but they look at it, oh, that's a Walden portrait. Oh, that's a Walden portrait. And the people that love it come, the people that don't go somewhere else. Either way, if you don't, that's where you find success. And I love to tell people, be less concerned that people like what you do and more concerned that they know what you do. Because when they know what you do, the people that like it will come.
And I would say narrow your focus to broaden your appeal.
Yeah.
I think that's a key. People try to do too many things, jump through all the hoops, and then you're just like you're a circus clown or something, and I think it takes people's confidence that, like, I don't want to be that. Like, that denigrates me as a photographer. I think everybody has a vision of what they attain to. And yes, we go to programs and then we want to be them and them and them and them. And then we come back and I did the same thing, fell down that same Alice in Wonderland hole, went and saw somebody and I want to do that. And went and got all the props. It was way propped and tried one session. I'm like, man, this isn't me. I threw it all out and went back to who I am, and that vision is birthed really deep inside. And I think staying true to that vision is important. And also I would say education, because you say all the time, Tim, like the most dangerous person in the room is the person who doesn't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And we see, we drive through the bank and the teller says, I'm a photographer. We go to the grocery store and the guy behind the deli counter, I'm a photographer. Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's so denigrating I hate this, and it makes me mad that it denigrates our 40-something years of intense study and education and the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that we've put towards learning what we know. And I wish there was another word. I mean, I don't even think I want to be called a photographer sometimes, but because it's been diluted so much. So I would say education, narrow your focus, like you say, do less and do it better than anybody else and run from the masses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is great advice.
It's another wow moment.
Oh my goodness. I'm speechless. This is really so. Skip, I hope you don't mind me sharing, but Tim and Bev, you know how we mentioned Skip and I will text back and forth to see who'll take the next question. He just sent over an emoji of an exploding brain, and that sums it up perfectly.
At least it wasn't a flying pig.
No,
exploding brain is mind blowing. My mind is blown right now. That is so. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
We so appreciate having you just on the show today and being willing to chat and chill with us and give your amazing advice. And I do want to make sure and ask, where can folks find you online to check you out, or if they want to find out more info about your mentoring programs?
Yeah, photographers, we have a site for photographers that we would invite everybody to jump over and see what, if something suits them there. It's timwalden.com. Mm-hmm. It's easy to remember, timwalden.com. And the educational opportunities are there, private coaching and our year-long mentorships and different things along those lines. And we see that as being even more significant in our future because we're so passionate about it. And then, of course, the studio that we run is Walden's Photography, and that website is waldensphotography.com. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook as well at either Tim Walden.
And subscribe to the Tuesday Tidbits.
And subscribe to the Tuesday
Tidbits. On TimWalden.com.
You'll never regret that, because those are just like Skip so kindly said.
Thank you,
great.
Yeah, they're just a bit of her wisdom and research and insight to help you for that day and week. So yeah.
Awesome, and we'll make sure to include that in the show notes as well, with direct links so that people can check you out. And
thank you.
Skip, where can folks find you?
Oh, it's always the same. Everything I write is at skipcohenuniversity.com, and my email is skip@mei500.com, and you can also catch me at skip@platypod.com, and on Twitter and Facebook, it's Skip Cohen. Nothing particularly difficult to find there. And we want to hear back from you guys. So for our listeners, if you've got other suggestions, if you've got photographers you'd like us to have on Beyond Technique, give us a shout. And Shamira, I always ask the same question. Where do they go to find you?
Yes, they can send me an email at shamira@photofocus.com. That is my first name, CHAMIRA @photofocus.com. We love getting questions, ideas, feedback, because it shapes how we move forward with this show and the amazing guests that we have on the show. And speaking of amazing, Bev, Tim, thank you. This has been just truly awesome.
Great stuff.
Yes.
Thank you both.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
And we want to thank our listeners for joining us as well. Please tell your friends about this podcast. Spread the word, especially if they have the desire to improve their photography business. We look forward to having you with us next time on Beyond Technique, brought to you by Platypod, Photofocus, and Skip Cohen University.